Welcome back to Canuck Aviation, here in Abbotsford, BC, Canada. Today I'm playing Axis and Allies Global 1940. I'll be playing the Anzacs with one other player. France will be controlled by one player, and everyone else will be controlled by 3 players. Let's hope that the Allies can win. Round 1 coming up. End of round 1 for the Germans. They bought 2 infantry, 1 artillery, a destroyer in C-Zone 113, and an industrial complex right there. They took over France. They took out C-Zone 9. There was still a transport left. They took out C-Zone 10 and C-Zone 11. They took over Finland. They also took over Bulgaria right there with a tank. Got 4 more men. Moved a tank to Rome, or a fighter rather, and moved some infantry and artillery and tanks to the Eastern Front. The Russians bought a tank, an artillery, and a couple infantry in Ukraine, a few artillery in right there, and a tank up there, and 2 more infantry in Russia with an artillery. Moved some more guys down closer to Germany. Moved a tank, a tactical bomber, and a mechanized infantry to the Caucasus. And up to the far east, moved further closer to the motherland. The Japanese bought 3 transports, took over some Chinese territories, landed a bunch of fighters right there, and declared war on the United States by taking the Philippine Islands. They also took Kwangtung, which declared war on India and Anzac. And for the United States, bought a carrier and 3 subs over here. And on the other side, a carrier. Moved some more ships to the Hawaiian Islands. Moved some more land units to western United States. And landed a fighter on this carrier over here. Brought a transport down to Brazil, took that. And that's about it for them. The Chinese took back Yunnan, bought 4 infantry, and stacked right there. That's it for them. The British bought 5 infantry in India, landed a couple fighters and a tactical bomber there, moved their infantry from India and AA guns to Burma, and moved a destroyer to C-Zone 37. They got a transport and a tank down here in Union of South Africa. Moved some units to Anglo-Egyptian Sudan. Attacked C-Zone 97. Took out all the Italian ships there. Also C-Zone 96. Took out the destroyer there. Moved transport from C-Zone 9 to off the coast of Canada. Bought 5 more infantry in United Kingdom. Moved some infantry to Scotland. That's about it for them. The Italians bought a tank and an artillery in northern Italy. Took over southern France. Took out the French Navy in C-Zone 93. Sent a transport and a man to Gibraltar. Took that over. Took over Greece with some infantry and a tank and some fighters. And took right there. Moved some infantry and artillery to Libya. and also took over Kenya. And for the Anzacs, we got 2 infantry and an artillery in New South Wales. Moved the infantry from New Zealand to New South Wales with transport, and moved the cruiser to Sea Zone 62, and moved all the fighters to Queensland. That's all for the Anzacs. The French moved their destroyer from Sea Zone 72 to 79 with the British destroyer and cruiser. Moved their infantry from French West Africa to French Central Africa, and moved in infantry to Morocco with a fighter from the United Kingdom. And that marks the end of round 1. Round 2 coming up. Should be fun. Okay, end of round 2. The Germans bought 2 artillery, 6 infantry, 1 tank in Germany, and a fighter in Western Germany. They bought 3 tanks in Romania. They took over Karelia with an infantry. I forgot to put a marker there. They took out the Russian submarine in Sea Zone 125. They took over Normandy. They also took over Bessarabia, which isn't worth anything, but still took it. They took over Baltic states, and I think they took over Eastern Poland. I may have moved those wrong. And that's it for them. The Russians bought an artillery and an infantry outside of Karelia. Bought 5 tanks in Moscow. Moved everyone out of Ukraine and Leningrad. And just trying to keep the Germans back. Moved 6 infantry to there. The rest of them just staying there. The Japanese bought 1 industrial complex in Kwangtung, an air base and a naval base, with their air force right there. Took over Borneo and Malaya and Shane State. They had also moved a destroyer to Sea Zone 16, but the Americans took that out with the destroyer. Lost it, unfortunately. And the Americans bought 2 transports, a destroyer. And that's all for over here. Moved their carrier and some subs to the Hawaiian Islands, a bomber to Midway. Moved a carrier, some transports, a battleship and a cruiser to the Caroline Islands, took that out. That's it for the Pacific for them. Over here on the Atlantic, they took over Gibraltar with a man. They lost 1 to the Italian infantry there. Bought a couple more transports, a destroyer. And that's it for the United States. For China, they moved everyone to Szechuan. Got 6 or 5 more infantry there. That's all for them. For the United Kingdom, about 4 infantry and an artillery in India. Moved their troops from Burma to Yunnan, took that back from the Japanese, give it back to the Chinese. Moved the rest of their infantry out of India to West India, and moved some fighters and put a tank there. They took over Kenya with a transport and a tank, mechanized infantry, and a couple artillery. Moved some infantry and an artillery to Transjordan. Took over Iraq with a couple infantry. Moved a couple transports with some infantry, tank, and an artillery, and a fighter to Morocco. took over the Italian fleet off the coast of southern France. And they bought an industrial complex in Egypt and in Persia. Or Persia may have been the last round. And then for the Italians, they got 7 more infantry, put some of them in southern France and northern France. They took over Yugoslavia. And they took over Algeria right there. That's it for the Italians. Oh, they moved a fighter to Western Germany, but not much for them. And for the Anzacs, got a couple artillery and a submarine in New South Wales. Moved the infantry, artillery, AA guns, and fighters from Queensland to Northern Territory. Moved a couple infantry and an artillery to Queensland. Moved a transport with a couple guys to New Guinea. And moved a destroyer and cruiser to the Caroline Islands with the United States fleet. And the French moved a destroyer to Sea Zone 39. And that's all for this round. Round 3 coming up should be a bloodbath in Russia. Let's see what happens.